look at that, I want to take it off and talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I did. I didn't look. A healthy face. Okay, folks, we will begin the meeting here in just a second. Before we start, I do want to remind folks that if you are going to speak, to fill out a speaker's card, and so that we have your information. And during open public comments, we will do it that way. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Monday, October 26th regular meeting of the St. Charles County Council. We will start off today with an invocation by Mike Elam and the Pledge of Allegiance by Nancy Snyder.
2 times in a row.
What's that?
2 times in a row.
Oh, there you go. All right, let's pray. Father God, we just come before you right now and we raise up our nation at this time of year when tensions are high and feelings are strong, and we just pray that your hand will be upon us and that we will hear your guidance and feel your wisdom as we go through this time. We thank you for those who have come tonight, and we just pray that your wisdom will be upon us, that we will listen to your counsel, will hear what you want, and we will do whatever is in the best sense of those who we represent. We thank you for the blessings that you give us every day, and we commend this meeting unto you. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Cronin?
Here.
Councilman Brazel?
Here.
Councilman Elam?
Here.
Councilman Hollander?
Here.
Councilman Hammond?
Here.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Here.
Councilman White?
Here.
Okay, first on the agenda tonight is public comments. Claire?
I have Robert Workman.
Mr. Workman.
Hello, my name is Robert Workman. I'm a resident of St. Charles County for 49 years, and I'm a certified building biology environmental consultant, specializing in electromagnetic radiation. And I just want to see if we looked into the publicized state of health effects of the tens of thousands of scientific research papers that shows exposures to all the mirrored exposures to microwave radiation frequencies are hazardous to our health and our population. All living creatures, flora, tuna, trees, Internet of Things is going to be exponentially increase the existing exposure beyond anything imaginable. Because there is no limits on the 5G, the number of frequencies used are in the billions upon billions of devices used to support the Internet of Things. 5G means there will be no limit to the numbers of microwave frequencies broadcasting out into the public space and natural environment. In addition, no wireless device has ever been tested for safety, and none of the cell phone companies and telecom industries are third-party insured. This means the burden of liability falls upon the city. The small cell antennas on top of lights and utility poles breach safety codes by melding a private device property onto publicly paid utility is not covered in the laws of coverage. And the liability for the fire damage or any other kinds of other damage that falls upon the city. Lost revenues, tax bases from negative real estate impacts are another burden that falls upon the city and not of the telecom. These are all issues that need serious consideration and should be reason enough to prevent any possible build-out of these dangerous agendas. The safety and health of the residents are in direct harm way of this smart city, agendas where the Internet of Things bring toxic microwave radiation, usually close to homes of the residents. And the Internet of Things, as part of this agenda, will then bring the microwave exposure even closer to body-worn devices. The debate of the sciences of harm has been over. For more than decades, there are now more than tens of thousands of peer-reviewed scientific studies that prove the effects of microwave radiation of all frequencies and power levels are harmful at the power levels well below the regulatory RF guidelines of safety. The RF safety guidelines only consider tissue heating, whereas the science of harm begins below at a non-thermal level. It is clear we no longer rely on the false and misguided RF safety guidelines of these so-called regulatory agencies. I have links. I was injured from microwave radiation. That's how I got involved in this about 4 years ago. You know, I spent about $250,000 on my own health to get it back to where it needs to be right now today. So I see clients every day. I look at local doctors, and when I remove RF radiation from their medication or protocol, they get better. If they don't remove microwave radiation, they don't get better. Lyme disease, mold, fungus, all feeds on microwave radiation. It's been documented since the 50s. And Dr. Klinghardt, who I went to go see in Seattle, Washington, confirmed that all microwave feeds mold and fungus. You will not get better if you have Lyme disease, if you have exposure to microwave radiation. Wi-Fi is a square wave. It knocks off the potassium or calcium off the cell, replaces it with potassium oleic, nitric oxide will go in that cell. The calcium will overload that cell, and then the DNA strands will break, and then producing mitochondria. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks.
Claire?
Arnie Dinoff.
Mr. Dinoff.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of council. My name is Arnie C. AC Dinoff, County Public Advocate and resident. First of all, I'd like to ask for two things. I was wondering if we can get some wipes, disinfectant wipes up here to wipe down the microphone before each and every speaker. I think we all want to practice good hygiene practice and that type of things. No, I'm not trying to ditch the last speaker, but it's just something good to do. And at the last county council meeting 2 weeks ago, I was downstairs and I was troubled by the deputy sheriff who I asked for a mask because I wanted to replace mine from a couple days of use. And he said that there's a shortage in the sheriff's department and they didn't have enough masks. And I'm kind of really shocked because the county has really gotten, like, I think, millions of masks. And they brought them to the fire departments and the cities and the public library, city library district. And so I was kind of put a front when he told me that I couldn't have a mask because they were in low supply, I should say. So the first thing I'd like to say about the workshop meeting tonight, do not allow the Home Builders Association, known as the HBA, to dictate and control us. Let's make decisions for ourselves, and let's not allow outside special and financial interests to make decisions for our 400,000 people. What is wrong with the St. Charles Community College Board of Trustees with not complying with Chapter 610 of the revised state statutes of Missouri? With open meetings, posting agendas, posting meeting packets, and opening the meetings to the general public. They're the last government body in the county not to open up its meetings to the general public. Why are we spending $1.5 million on tonight's agenda at the County Heritage Crossing Park and spending it with a Franklin County company instead of spending our money right here in St. Charles County? Why is not the city of St. Peter's doing some of these improvements? Earthwork, road construction, stormwater improvements, traffic lighting, and lighting improvements. The description is very vague. It doesn't tell us what we're getting for our $1.5 million investment. I've been asking the county executive for an appointment to the County City Library Board of Trustees, as he has many vacancies on that board, and they never get called upon. Does that make sense? And on tonight's agenda is an appointment. I really do care about this county, Mr. County Executive, and I'd like to serve in some type of capacity. Proposed Bill 4895. What are we going to learn from spending another $1 million for conceptual improvement plans at I-70 and I-64? There is no funding for MoDOT or East-West Gateway Coordinating Council for the foreseeable future. Proposed Bill number 4898, the only bill on the agenda tonight. Mr. Cronin also takes the health medical insurance, costing us taxpayers $15,000 to $25,000 annually. By raising the insurance for families 2% for the employee and 5% for the families, you are taking money out of their pockets for all 1,200 county employees. even if you approve a pay raise in 2021 budget? Will the rest of the council be transparent and announce to the public who is taking and accepting the medical health benefit giveaways? I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other?
No more speaker cards.
Okay, next up would be the oral report from our county executive.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a short report, and then I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Jeff Smith. But the last few meetings, we haven't gone back to the numbers, and that was mainly because the numbers hadn't been changing much. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we've had a Tuesday at 4 o'clock conference call with the pandemic task force with all the other political leaders and health departments, whatever. That had been going on for, what, Joanne, six months, I guess. And we finally, it was the point where things weren't getting any better, but they weren't getting any worse, and we went to, we're going to have meetings just every other week. Well, within a week, everything did start to change. And as you can see, the last 14 days have not been good for the county. You can see that we're kind of back to where we were back in August in terms of the numbers. The only the one thing about it is we're not by ourselves, and everybody's experiencing the same kind of increase in numbers, not only in the state but in the nation, and I guess really around the world. So this is the graph that we've been looking at, and as you can see, for the longest time there, we were growing at about the same rate as St. Louis County. We're growing a little bit faster than them the last 2 or 3 weeks, and I anticipate I'll probably start getting another round of calls from people, calling for a mask mandate. But again, we're still, and I have to emphasize this, we're still below the national average. We're still below the state average. Franklin and Jefferson County have sort of caught up with us. So I think if you can, draw any conclusions from this, it's this: we really do have community spread, and we're really kind of in the same situation now, whether you live, no matter which county you live in. And those advantages that we had months and months ago have eroded. But again, it seems to be going on everywhere. I hope that 2 weeks from now I can report that things have at least leveled off again. Got a few more slides here. Again, deaths are still down compared to the first part of the pandemic. Of course, any death is a tragedy, but we've had 15 in the last 30 days. Again, there's still 70% of our deaths are in long-term care. This is, and of course, the pandemic task force was on the media today, and they're very concerned about hospitalizations. You can see at the top number up there that they are on the increase. Again, if you're looking for good news, I think it's the bottom line, which is the ICU, and that is not growing at nearly the same rate as hospitalizations themselves. This is interesting, I think, and again, it's growing. But when you look at the percentages, it's not necessarily the young people, it's not necessarily the senior citizens. Right now, the area that is really increasing is the 40s and the 50s and the 60-year-olds, for whatever reason. And someday, somebody will figure out why all this happened, and I'll be glad to read about it. But right now, again, it doesn't seem to be any particular one group that's experienced an increase. That's what I have on that, and I'd like to yield the rest of my time, if I can, Mr. Chairman, to Jeff Smith's going to give you an update on what's been going on with 911.
Okay, Jeff?
Members of the council, I want to update you briefly on our 911 system, but more so the outage that occurred on October the 12th. There are not too many things that keep me up at night. A total failure of our 911 system would be one of those things. But quite honestly, up until the 12th of October, even that really didn't keep me up, because I think we all felt that we had designed a system with enough redundancies and failures in it that wouldn't be the case. But obviously, we did have a failure. We've worked with our vendor to identify exactly what that was and some initial steps to prevent it from happening again. And likewise, we're looking at additional steps that we can take to build in yet some additional fail-safes. So I'd like to run through ever so briefly some of the things that are in place, just so you're familiar with the system as soon as this picture comes up. Somebody to put that up for us.
We're having another failure here.
Hope this doesn't keep you up at night.
No, this just keeps me away from home. I've got no place else to be. Happens to be my 29th wedding anniversary, and we're babysitting grandkids tonight.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations. 29.
All right, so this picture is just very simple. I just want to show here that at each one of the PSAPs, 911 answering points in the county, of which there are 6, there really isn't any equipment. There's a telephone-looking device, and there's a PC, and then in the back room, there's routers and switches. For the most part, we have otherwise a cloud-based system or off-premise-based system. This is a rough sketch that we received of the system back when it was originally designed. And, oh, thank you. I'm like, that's not my hand.
It's tiny even for me, so.
So basically what this is this is our 2 host sites. They're redundant. We have one in St. Louis, and our second one originally was in San Antonio, Texas. It's been relocated to Chicago. That was done a number of years ago. You can see through these lines, it's connected to a network, if you would, a cloud. And then each one of our PSAPs, I know you can't read that, but there's 2 connections to each one of the PSAPs, both a wired connection, MPLS circuit, and a 4G failover. And then the 2 host sites are connected together to keep them synchronized. Roughly half of the PSAPs are connected to one of the data centers at any one time. The other PSAPs are connected to the other one. We have 28 911 trunk lines that come into the system. 14 of them enter the system at the site in St. Louis. The other 14 actually enter the network, if you would, in Wentzville at our old building, and then they, through the network, actually go to the Chicago data center. All of the trunk lines, and this will come into play later, all of the trunk lines at the St. Louis site are the primary ones. So those are the ones that ring first. The secondary ones are the ones that come in at Wentzville and go to Chicago. So regardless of what host you're connected to, your primary 911 lines still come into St. Louis, okay? Now, this is part of the event analysis that they gave us. And then I took the liberty to update their picture just a little bit because I think it depicts our current situation. So I drew in the red lines. Those, if you would, are the 4G connections. The black lines are all of the network connections. The blue lines here and here are AT&T's responsibility. That's actually delivering the trunk lines to each one of those sites. You'll see this line here with an X through it, so that's going to represent where our failure was. We'll talk about it in a second. When the system was built and our secondary host was relocated to Chicago, you'll notice that there are 2 circuits connecting that host to the network. If you look at the St. Louis site, you'll notice that there's only one circuit connecting that host site to the network. And that's where the failure was.
Both times?
On the 12th, the one on the 12th. So one of the things that we've identified and that they are working on, and I did try to get an update today. It's been ordered. I don't believe it's actually installed and provisioned yet, but they're going to put in a second circuit. So if we ever had a failure there again, we wouldn't have a problem. Now, what added to the failure that day, because of the other multitude of scenarios that we built in, or fail-safes that we built into the system, is that the trunk lines, again, the primary ones come to St. Louis. And there's an option in 911 called early answer, and it's where the system, so that rack of equipment sitting down in Tucker, basically tells AT&T, all right, we've answered the phone, we have it now. What that does is it allows us to start recording a 911 line right after someone dials 911. You would be amazed at the stuff that people say right before they get ready to talk to 911. And it's come in very handy sometimes on the law enforcement side in particular. And so that's why that exists. And then the system would then deliver it to the appropriate PSAP through the network. Since AT&T has a signal from the system that the phone has already been answered, they don't do anything with it. For example, one of the things that is in place is basically like a make busy. If any one trunk line would go through 3 ring cycles or 18 seconds without being answered, we have what's called an overflow destination. And so those calls would automatically start ringing at another PSAP. And AT&T takes care of all that by just routing it through the selective router back to the system and goes through another PSAP. But because that was broken and the system already told AT&T we've answered the call, AT&T didn't know to do anything else with it. Another thing that we discovered is that this entire MPLS network from here down at least is all provisioned. We don't pay for it. We pay the vendor and they take care of everything else. Is through Verizon, and the 4G is through Verizon Wireless. Our vendor did not receive alerts from Verizon specific to outages. And so they have since corrected that, so now they do. Not only do they know where there's an outage, they know what circuit branch that outage is affecting. So when it was discovered that the 911 trunk lines were down, our vendor has a whole series of steps that they go through to try to identify what the outage is, so that we can take corrective steps. And they did that correctly. Unfortunately, it just took way too long. Now with having the ability to see that, they can take steps earlier, because what ultimately they did, which got everybody answering calls again, is normally if one of these PSAPs is connected to the St. Louis host, and the host site itself would malfunction or go offline but not lose connectivity, the console, the computer screen sitting in front of the dispatcher, there's a little bar that turns red. They know they're disconnected. They log off to the system, try to log back on, and the system automatically says, I can't reach that host. I'm just automatically going to direct you to the other one. But again, because that connection was lost, it could never even attempt to reach that host, so it didn't know to redirect itself to Chicago. So ultimately what happened was the vendor forced the St. Louis site into a maintenance mode, and then contacted all the PSAPs and said, okay, log off and back on and put in this IP address, and it'll force you to the Chicago site, and all the calls came back online. Those PSAPs that were still connected to the Chicago host never lost connectivity, but they didn't receive their phone calls. And the reason they didn't receive their phone calls is because those primary trunk lines come into St. Louis, where again, the system was saying, we've answered it. But so, for example, like county police, we have 5 trunk lines. 2 of them are primary and come into St. Louis. The other 3 are in Chicago. And they always ring in the same order. So if trunk line 1 always fills up first, then trunk line 2. If those 2 trunk lines would have filled up and the 3rd one would have started ringing, that little phone that's sitting there would have rang. They would have gotten that 911 call. Is this all making sense? Yes. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working with the vendor yet this week is can we diversify these 911 trunk lines a little bit more and split them up, even primaries between one site and the other. So hopefully between that, this circuit, and then we've also discussed this idea. In our old 911 system, there literally was a toggle switch that we could throw as a manual make busy. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, but I had this explained in a much simpler manner to me.
Okay.
Verizon has two ways to get in and out of Chicago, and
Correct,
one
right
way
here.
to get out of St. Louis.
That is correct.
Why?
That is correct.
Why are we that certainly where they don't
I
think
don't know.
we're inferior to Chicago, do they?
We've asked that question.
Are they Cub fans or
No.
what?
We have certainly asked that question, and they can't tell us, and that's what they told us on the phone
Well,
Friday.
That's want to make sure that.
Yes, absolutely, and they are correcting that, but they cannot tell us why there were two circuits to Chicago and not to St. Louis.
But they're working on
But they're putting the second circuit in, right. And I just wanted to make sure that you know that the system was built with multiple levels of redundancy in it. And we have had, the system is really designed so that of those 5 PSAPs, we should be able, 6 answering points, we should be able to lose 5 of them. And that last site, although they'd be very busy, can still answer calls. So the following Saturday, following the outage on the 12th, there was an issue at O'Fallon, again with another Verizon MPLS circuit.
It's crazy.
And in that particular case, the system should fail over to their 4G. We've had problems with O'Fallon's 4G network since they moved into their new police station from day one. And so that didn't happen. But what did happen was that 18-second rule kicked in, and AT&T started rolling those calls over to county police automatically. So no 911 calls were missed on that day. And on the day of the event, the 12th, we do know that 16 911 calls were missed. 13 of them were returned once we got the system back up and we could find who they were to make sure that they still didn't have an emergency or that things had been taken care of through 7-digit dialing or whatever, and they had. 2 of them were wireless calls that we never got enough information to call the number back on. And then the last one was from a care facility that we deal with on a regular basis, and we know we had talked to them multiple times, and so they didn't have an ongoing emergency, so we didn't call that one back. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. It is very technical. That's a very simple explanation to that. One circuit should have been 2
And
taken care of.
Before Mr. Cronin's question, you're also putting in a manual failover.
We are checking with them about putting in the switch, and if not, we will make it a simple phone call to AT&T now to just say, fail these trunk lines over to that site, and maybe even go as far, because I had reached out to St. Louis County that morning to said, can we fail our calls over to you? Can you handle them? Our 911 system, we take countywide, between 14 and 15,000, so 14,500 911 calls a month. So, that would be a lot to dump on any one person, in a day's time. I don't know how many that is in a day, but you get the idea. Yes, sir.
This stuff's way over my head, and I think you guys do a good job, but let's just face it, anything that's mechanical, electrical,
Yep.
you got failures.
Yep.
That's what happened. One of the things that I think that you ought to at least consider, or maybe the county government needs to consider, is I'm an old guy. I remember what it was like before 911. You grabbed your phone book, and in the front there usually was blue pages, and it had a listing for your county police or your city police or whatever. And the other thing I remember hearing from Tom Neer, when Joplin, the tornado hit Joplin, the communication systems got the hell knocked out of them. The only thing that worked, it couldn't call, but you could do text, okay? So what in the last meeting, I mentioned to people, if this thing goes down, you can do star 55 for the highway patrol. Maybe emergency communications could work with communications department and get something that our citizens could print off the county site to stick on the refrigerator and say, if the system goes down, here's your county police, you might want to text them if it's a major disaster, here's a listing of all the local police officers, just an idea.
So you have the ability to text 911 now. But in this particular case, it wouldn't have worked because
Yeah.
the call gets delivered the same way.
But let's say that all the antennas were down and the
Yeah.
phone, and somehow
Texting typically will
I
go
could text
through.
County Sheriff's Department, what number do I do? I don't know.
Mary's team and I have worked since this event, and we have put together some prepackaged messaging that if we would, gosh forbid, have this happen again, that we could instantly put out on social media and stuff that says, here are the 7-digit numbers to dial for each one of the appropriate police agencies that dispatch.
Well, for old guys like me who don't use social media, that means I want something you can print and glue on the refrigerator like the old
Yeah.
days.
You can call your kid and he can
Yeah.
tell you that.
Yeah, I can do it.
Old guys
Thank
like
you.
you, Joe, would use a bell.
Thank
Any
you,
other
sir.
questions?
No.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Is that it?
Get home to your wife, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Moving on, we have the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to remove highway.
Okay, Highway
I'd like to-
364 at Heritage Crossing, okay? Yes.
I would like to talk about the roofing one as well.
Which one?
The
what?
roofing bid for the juvenile justice
Roofing,
center.
okay.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
so those two will be removed. Do I have a motion to remove those two items? All
Yes,
those
I'll
in
make the
favor say
motion.
aye. Opposed? Okay, those items are removed. We will now go ahead and vote on the rest of the consent agenda. Do I have a
Motion to
motion?
approve the agenda as amended.
Do I have a second? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, coming back to the highway one, Mr. White.
Yes, this is in my district, and it's an exit ramp off of 364. If you're coming north towards St. Charles, it's an exit to get off onto Heritage Crossing. There's been a lot of demand and requests for this for many, many years, and I'd like to thank the county executive for pushing forward, and the road board, and John Greifsuk. It's really needed because now, if you get off, you need to get off at Woodstone and go through, stop by Woodstone, but anyway, 4 stoplights before you could get to the Heritage Crossing. So it's really needed, and people are really anticipating it. And I just wonder if John could come up and speak to it just for a moment.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just want everybody to know that internally, we refer to this as the John White ramp.
The John White ramp. Okay. Get a sign made up there.
Hey.
Mr. Greifsuk.
We're lobbying MoDOT now.
Yeah, this is a project of persistence, and I want to give John that reward for his persistence. I mean, this is a project that almost since the opening of Page Avenue, as you came Phase 1 across the bridge, John noticed, hey, the residents of my district are going to have to travel a long way to get off of the highway or on the highway. And so he immediately started talking to myself and the county executive and to MoDOT and to his fellow members on the East-West Gateway Board of Directors about this project. And he was told, no, 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 but he was persistent and he kept on asking, how can we get this funded? How can we make this work? Well, a few years ago, we applied for the right grant at the right opportunity and the right time. We got some federal money that's paying for 50% of the project. We're putting in the other half of the project. This is on the state system. It's coming off of 364. It's a type of project that if we did not contribute, the county did not have the money to contribute, would not have got built. It's providing that local access. And so what seems to be a very simple project, you can almost see it if you drive, as John said, north towards St. Charles, there close to the Christian church, a little spot where you can almost drive through the grass and get to the outer road and get those residents home quicker. And small amount of pavement. Same thing if you're heading towards Midwest Mall Drive. There's a small section right before you get to Young Station that you could almost jump over and get to, but you just need a little bit of concrete. And that's where the residents in his district have persistently asked for this project. John has persistently requested it in his role as council member, his role as on East-West Gateway Board of Directors. And so I am excited to see that this project is, we'll get, hopefully with council approval, we'll get funded. And it will get started in February of this coming year, February 2021. The delay between your approval tonight and February is that there are some big sign trusts. And it seems like a relatively simple thing that needs a add a new exit sign. But MoDOT and Federal Highway in their wisdom say we need to replace the whole sign truss and re-sign multiple lanes. So there's a lead time on that steel, but once that gets in place in February, we can start it. This project will be managed by our highway department, county highway department, even though it's on the state system, and will be completed by October this time next year. And so you won't have to travel through those 4 signals. And what John said is true, is that you have to get off at Woodstone. The bad thing about that, people get used to traveling on the outer road through those signals. So it's people that miss that exit 2 miles up. They end up keep on going, and they have to get off at Upper Bottom Road, turn around, and hope they don't miss the ramp to get off at Heritage the other direction. Otherwise, they end up all the way past Youngerman and have to come around and do it again. And so it's a big project, and John's persistence, I think, is what paid off and finally got this done. So I appreciate your work on this. Appreciate the county executive is also, because he's been almost as persistent as John. It was a close race between the two who kept on pushing this harder. So.
Well, on behalf of all the residents, they really appreciate all the work that's been done on this. So for them, I say thank you. And it will be an extremely more safe area for those people. You know, emergency vehicles can get in there a lot faster. So it's a very good thing.
Okay, Mr. Cronin, the second item.
I have one quick comment on this one too.
Okay.
I really appreciate the thorough job that the highway department does on their bids. And this particular one, they had 9 bids, 2 of them being local. So we know that they're really doing their job getting those bids. But the same token, that's a criticism that I have on the roofing bid, okay? Because we got 4 bids and none of those guys are local, okay? And I know there's a ton of roofing contractors in this county. And I also know that there's, this is a residential type roof. It's nothing elaborate. You know, any normal shingle guy can get done. Mr. Brazel's our resident expert on roofs, but the same token, I wish we could have got that out to more than 4 people, and I wish some of the bidders were locals, okay? That being said, John has told me that this is very critical that we get this done because this roof is leaking, so I don't want to hold it up, but I think this is kind of like the carpet square problem we had a few years ago, like these carpet squares, 2 by 2, and nobody wanted to bid them. I think the county needs to look at their bidding procedures. In fact, I think the way maybe they need to go, the people that are doing the roofing bids need to go see how the highway department does it, because the highway department did a good job. The other thing, there is a mistake on this bid too, on this approval too. The company's not DC Martin, it's DE Martin. We have an attorney here. I don't know if that matters or not, but what we're approving is a bid on agenda for DC Martin, and the company's name is really DE Martin. But that's the only thing I got on that one. Okay.
I had a different issue with the roof replacement. And my question is it's my understanding that this City River Point project goes right through where the juvenile court is and the facility right now. So are we gonna be taking out that whole thing and moving it somewhere else?
Hope not.
But we don't know, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know that they, one
I mean,
can one
isn't that right?
jurisdiction condemn another? I don't think so.
Well, I'm just kind of wondering, I mean, maybe we ought to just put a little patch up there until we find out if the thing is going to even be there in a couple of years. So I mean, I was really puzzled by the fact that the city decided they were just going to go ahead and take out this county building.
Yeah, we were real shocked the first time we saw the presentation, and it showed a commercial building there.
So we don't know what their intentions are? Okay.
Their intentions are to build it. The problem, of course, is getting the financing and actually getting it built.
Okay, so you
But
don't.
we definitely have asked them, you know, what's your plans? And I don't know, Joanne, did we get a straight answer on that?
Just crickets, huh?
No, I think they looked, they asked for a courtesy look at the building. The cities, if we ask them to see something, always, give us courtesy to show us something, so we did. I think they were shocked to realize the amount of security in that building.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite understand what you were saying, John. I'm so sorry.
I think they were shocked to see the amount of security in that building.
Oh,
People don't realize the detention center really means detention center. And so I don't know that there's been any interest
Yeah.
since then. So.
okay. I thought there was a plan afoot at some time, which I don't think had anything to do with the county, but to rename that facility in honor of Ray Grush, who was the longtime juvenile officer of St. Charles County and the person who pushed through that whole project, of which I had to come up and get scolded by Joe Ortworth at the time, who was the county executive, for suggesting that would be important for us to have security in that building. But we eventually prevailed, so I'm just curious of whether it was going to stay there or not. So, okay, I think that,
We intend for it to stay there, but, you know, they may make us an offer we can't refuse.
well, it better include the cost of the brand-new roof.
Price just went up $81,000.
Yeah, no kidding.
But the cost of security in that building or roof is nothing.
I know. I just had to mention that, I'm sorry, okay.
I need
All
a
right.
motion to approve the two items that were removed from the consent agenda.
So moved.
You need a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Consent agenda has passed. Bills for final passage is the bill number 4894.
Bill number 4894, an ordinance setting the 2021 rates for group medical insurance benefits with Aetna Life Insurance Company, Davis Vision, and self-insured dental insurance benefits for county employees, elected officials, and retirees.
Questions or comments on
Mr. Chairman?
bill number 4894?
Did
Yes.
you pass on that information?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good. Everybody knows it. 4%.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. No questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Bill number 4894, an ordinance setting the 2021 rates for group medical insurance benefits with Aetna Life Insurance Company, Davis Vision, and self-insured dental insurance benefits for county employees, elected officials, and retirees. Councilman Cronin.
Yes.
Councilman Brazel. Yes. Councilman Elam.
Yes.
Councilman Hollander.
Yes.
Councilman Hammond.
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider.
Yes.
Councilman White.
Yes.
Okay. Bill number 4894 passes. Bills for introduction, bill number 4895.
Bill number 4895, requested by Amanda Brower, sponsored by council as a whole. An ordinance approving an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for county funding of the conceptual design of improvements needed to reduce congestion at the interchange of Route I-64, I-70, and US 61.
Questions or comments? Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, maybe John, you can handle this. This is some of you may remember, Joe, I don't even think you were on the council yet when we advanced the money to do the engineering on the Daniel Boone Bridge. And this is a similar situation.
John?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so this contract will provide $1 million to MoDOT to look at the I-70, I-64, US 61 interchange. That interchange has many issues with the geometry, the congestion. It's an old interchange for a rural county that is no longer a rural county in that area. This project is in conjunction. They'll take and look at the work that we did with MoDOT on the Winsville curve where we had the bottleneck and look at, okay, how do these two projects play together? So are there improvements that we need to make at the interchange? So if we improve the curb, we just don't move that problem at the curb to this interchange, so that we truly do open up that bottleneck for our residents as well as our logistic companies. It also will look at congestion on I-64, kind of between that area of 364 up to the interchange. Once again, you start seeing congestion in that area pretty much on a nightly basis now, both on 64 and I-70. The state, unfortunately, is not investing in studies. They want to put their money in concrete, which is fine. But as the county executive mentioned, the way that St. Charles County government can help make sure that our projects are shovel-ready and our priority with the state is doing that study, making sure that we know what the improvement is, identify the cost of that so that we can get in the line and get this project as a regional priority, because we'll know we'll be ahead of the game. And that's what we're asking council for now, is that give us, if we can allow that the state to move forward with this study to identify the needs and get it so that we can identify the actual cost of upgrading that interchange.
Will that go as far as the Parkway, this study? Okay, or does it stop the railroad track?
They studied on the previous one for the curve to the interchange up to David Hokel Parkway, the next interchange past the Parkway. So they will tie this modeling and this study to the previous one.
Okay. I spoke to the Winsville mayor about this some today. This is my district, and it's the biggest issue in my district, just to be real honest with you. I really appreciate the work that Steve did trying to get the MoDOT through the years to keep this project on the burner. And it's one of those things where, pardon my French, but it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. We got to keep that project going, okay? So we got to spend that $1 million, but it's also kind of bad, in my opinion, that we got to spend county taxpayer road tax money on a MoDOT roadway. So I asked the mayor, quite frankly, I said, I'm good with this. I know a lot of people worked real hard on it, and we're going to keep that project going. But I'd like you to also put a resolution before your board to send to the state legislative delegations to put a clean fuel tax on the ballot down the road, so Wentzville actually can get the money that they need down the road. MoDOT can get the money to fix these roads on their own without coming to us. So, I appreciate your work on it, but MoDOT's got to have more funding. There's no other solution, and I think Wentzville will do that. Steve, actually, the mayor of Wentzville said that might be something you want to bring up in the mayor and administrator's breakfast. He thinks that probably all the cities in this county would adopt a similar resolution. Mike had some great ideas about how to get all those state reps together in one location. Maybe they'd start listening and put it to the voters and say.
When I've talked to like chamber groups, I've asked people, when next time you talk to your senator or rep, ask them to would they please fund their road system? We have a hard enough problem funding our own.
Sure.
So I just, I think the cities are really ready to make an effort, and of course, next year will be a non-election year, so it might be a better chance of getting something done.
Yeah, they're really happy at Wentzville with the work you did on this. I appreciate it.
Well, this is the one thing come out of that letter that I wrote. We still haven't heard from them about actually putting the curve on the step. But we'll keep working on that. And the other thing one thing I think you didn't mention, we're gonna get a credit for this. I mean, we've already told them we're gonna do some cost sharing when we actually build it. But whatever number that is, we'll get a credit on this, for this $1 million.
So that's where that, as the county executive mentioned, it's kind of a forward funding. They don't want us to use the word forward funding, but so the $1 million we invest here, like I said, will be kept in a separate account so that when we go to partner with them on another project, which I know that your concern is we shouldn't be partnering as much as we do sometimes, but in order to get the improvements that needed to create that local access, we'll get that credit, and hopefully that money will apply towards that project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any bills to be removed from the table? If not, I need a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Joe.
Well, Saturday, there's going to be a rally at Arrowhead Building Supply. The governor's coming in, and Sarah Huckabee, if anybody's interested, at 10 o'clock.
Okay, now the motion.
Well, I would also like to say congratulations to our new Supreme Court Justice who
Yes.
got her
Oh, did
vote
she
done tonight. So
That's correct.
Jamie Barrett is in and will be sworn in on Monday. So we have a full Supreme Court once again. And I would make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it.